All right, fig lovers, this is Ross the Fig Boss. I thought I'd answer a really cool question I got recently related to the fig trees, which was, Ross, how do I know when my fig tree should set fruit? They actually commented on a different video of mine. I was talking about the ripening process of figs and how they go through different ripening stages. But this person was worried about actually their figs forming on the tree. People ask me all the time, why isn't my fig tree fruiting? It's one of the most important questions, and it's infuriating because usually it's really only like 4 or 5 things that stops people from getting their fig tree to fruit. Before we get into that, I just want to mention I have a lot of fig trees for sale. They are looking beautiful right now. I would highly recommend you guys go check out my blog, figboss.com. Go to the store page. I'll put a link in the description. So back to the video. So you should be seeing fruit set 3 to 6 weeks after your last frost date. If you're not, it's a really good idea to evaluate your fig tree. I do this to all my fig trees in the yard, whether they're in pots, whether they're in the ground. I look at them, I inspect them 3 to 6 weeks in, and I say, are they fruiting? If they're not, well, let's correct the problem. Some of the problems are obvious, like not enough sun, improper amount of water, the soil life is not very good, and there's nutritional deficiencies. One of which you guys probably have never thought of is actually an imbalance of hormones. We'll get to that at the end. But these can be really easily corrected like that. So in today's video, we're talking about the main crop of figs. There's actually 2 crops that fig trees produce. The Breba crop ripens on last year's growth, and you'll see those produce the second the tree wakes up from dormancy. They swell with the new growth. But the main crop forms here. You'll see the leaf stems attached to the main branch. Right above that is where the fruits form. But one of the misconceptions that people have is that if you didn't have a fruit form where a leaf stem attached to the branch, well, you can't go back in time. We can't correct these things that I just mentioned and have fruits magically appear where there was leaves that didn't form fruits. So what instead we have to do is actually get our fig tree to grow. Once all those check boxes are checked, all the requirements are met, if the tree continues growing, the fruits will form as it grows. So one of the most obvious things that fig trees need to fruit is sunlight. If they're not in the appropriate amount of sunlight, intensity and duration of sunlight, everybody's different. I can't really quantify it. I can't just say 8 hours. As much as possible, you're gonna be way better off, just trust me. One of the ways though we can maximize sunlight on our tree, so even if we only get about 6 hours of sunlight, we can still maximize the sunlight by opening up the center of our tree and having scaffolds that go out into horizontal and also different directions from another. We can capture the sunlight on a better angle and make better use of the sunlight, not shading out any portions of our tree. So training fig trees is really important, and usually you can train a fig tree without a pruning shear. I think pruning shears can help them grow. If the more we prune them back, the more we shorten the branches, that encourages them to grow at a younger age, getting that form established faster. But at the same time, we can take longer branches, bend them with stakes or limb spreaders, and get the angle of the branches that we want, setting up the form correctly. Water is also a big one, and it's pretty simple. I water my trees every day, especially now that it's 90 degrees. Today's the first day here in the Philadelphia area. We're over 90, I'm sweating making this video. When it's over 80 and 90, we gotta water them every day, usually about 1/4 of a gallon to 1/2 a gallon of water per 5 gallons of soil. So if your container's about 10 inches by 10 inches or 12 inches by 12 inches, that's a 5 gallon, roughly a 5 gallon size pot. It needs that much water every day. I set up an irrigation system. I'll put links to all this information, all the supplemental information in the description. Now, if your tree's not getting enough water, it's very possible that not only will it not fruit, but it might actually drop any fruits that are on the tree. Fig trees will not fruit if our trees are overwatered, and that usually happens when the soil health is not very good. Overwatering promotes an imbalance of life in the soil, particularly a fungus that promotes root rot. Fig trees are very susceptible to root rot. Basically, this will destroy the roots of our fig trees and actually weaken the top of our trees because every tree has to be in balance. What's on bottom has to be in balance of what's on top. So we need to have a healthy soil. And if we don't have a healthy soil, we can't also uptake the nutrients that we need. So fertilizer is obviously really important. If we have a nutritional deficiency, we're not going to be able to get our fig trees to fruit, and overwatering them usually leads to nutritional deficiencies. But you might also see nutritional deficiencies in the form of fig mosaic virus. See all the spotting here on the leaves versus this leaf that looks very pristine and clean and dark green. Here's another example. Maybe it's deformed and has weird shapes to the leaves. Every fig tree has fig mosaic virus. You can't avoid it, but certainly you'll see it more when growing them in containers, and also just generally when you have nutritional deficiencies. By the way, if you're interested, I've written about every single one of these topics in great detail on my blog, figboss.com. So in terms of actually applying fertilizer though, to correct these nutritional deficiencies, all I do is apply one application of Osmocote. It's a product I've talked a lot about. There's different variations of it, different names for it. But all I do is put that on the top of the soil here in my container fig trees. I walk away, I don't think about it. The trees planted in the ground, I don't give that to because I only grow organic. But if I was gonna apply a fertilizer to something in the ground, I would do a soil test first, figure out what's missing and apply it. Otherwise, every fig tree just gets mulch every year, which breaks down into life, organic material, and nutrients. Lastly, and probably the most important thing, is actually the hormones of trees and plants. Just like us, we have hormones in our bodies. We have to have all these building blocks within our plants, right? Sunlight, temperature, nutrients, water, all these things have to be right. Once we have the building blocks right, then the hormones are telling the trees to flower or to grow. And in the case of fig trees, they're very easily pushed in the direction of growing and not flowering. This is because we have fig trees growing in places we probably shouldn't. So in people that are in really cold climates, like zone 7A and below, like where I am, you need to protect your fig trees during the winter time. Now, I'm not saying a fig tree that isn't protected during the winter time and a fig tree that might take a lot of winter damage isn't going to fruit, but it's gonna be a lot less likely and it's gonna be a lot later to ripen than normal. Do you ever have figs on your fig tree form way late in the season and then they don't ripen because your frost comes in? Well, that's because either you're pruning it improperly or it's not being protected during the winter time. So right here, we've got a plot of fig trees. There's 60 fig trees here in the southern plot. These get hit really hard by the cold every year. And now you can see that they're resprouting here from the base. These will not fruit. Now for some people they might. Each variety is a little different. Each location's a little bit different. But again, you want them to fruit, you gotta protect them. And here's why, because if we have the upper portions of our branches protected from the cold, or if we do not prune the upper portions of our branches, usually the top third of the growth from last year, we're gonna have an easier time getting them to fruit because they have the right balance of hormones. One hormone's telling it to grow, the other one's telling it to flower and fruit. And so the right hormonal balance is at the upper portion of the growth. So if you're pruning your fig trees back, let's say my arm is the branch, and you prune it back by a third, or 50%, 75%, or 90%, you shorten that branch. That's called a heading cut. That's gonna severely limit your chances of getting fruit the next year. The way that you wanna prune them is actually using thinning cuts. So if you have 3 branches, my fingers are the branches, you cut the one out in the middle and you cut it 100%. You remove it completely at its lowest point and you leave nothing behind. That will ensure that the other 2 survive, the top third of their branches are preserved, and they have the right balance of hormones. So thank you guys. I've got so much supplemental information. I'll put links to that in the description, videos, articles I've written, and please do me a favor, check out the listings. Fig trees are for sale. We got a lot of trees that I've listed recently. Hit the like button for me, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you for the next video. Take care.